What would you do if you had only 2 minutes left to live? 2 minutes with absolute, supreme power. Would you rush to see the ones you love, race to save the world, or simply let the clock quietly run out?
Perfect Days introduces a middle-aged man named Hirayama,
Living in a cramped apartment just wide enough to roll out a thin Japanese mattress. By day, he cleans public restrooms for the Tokyo Toilet Company. Contrary to what anyone might expect, this isn't just a dead-end survival job. Hirayama scrubs every single corner with fierce dedication, pouring meticulous passion into the work as if performing a delicate art. When his shift ends, he changes clothes, drops by his favorite local diner, heads home to read, and drifts off into a quiet sleep filled with fleeting dreams. Dawn wakes him with the sound of sunlight hitting the pavement, the scrape of a broom outside, and the gentle watering of his indoor plants before his commute begins to the backdrop of classic cassette tapes. Hirayama lives like a living clock,
though he wears no watch to measure the passage of his day.
His entire existence runs on a rigid loop of comforting rituals, crafting the illusion of a flawless daily routine. Yet, how can a life of endless repetition captivate audiences for 2 straight hours under the direction of Wim Wenders?
The magic lies in how he savors every single breath.
Ask him that terrifying question about your final 2 minutes, and his answer would likely be to let them pass in silence, just as nature intended. Because nobody needs to wait for the final moments of life to truly live, to look, listen, taste, and touch. Hirayama practices pure mindfulness, embracing both joy and sorrow in their rawest forms. While the rest of Tokyo burns out under crushing pressure and relentless speed, one man moves in absolute silence, overflowing with gratitude. Today, Last Movie takes you through the quiet rhythm of
Perfect Days,
a mirror to help us find true beauty.
Live fearlessly and leave this world without a single regret.
Perfect Days drifts softly through the cinematic rhythm of a 60-year-old man named Hirayama. At first glance, nothing happens. He lives like a modern monk, practicing a kind of quiet asceticism, entirely detached from the adrenaline-fueled thrills of a world screaming at everyone to move faster and chase wilder dreams. Hirayama exists like a forgotten relic left behind by time in the concrete sprawl of Tokyo, while the rest of humanity exhausts itself racing toward cutting-edge technology and hyper-modern luxury. He scrubs public toilets, appearing like a man past his prime, completely severed from the collective heartbeat of society. The film opens as the dim orange rays of dawn bleed into a sparse, minimalist room. A lone man quietly folds his futon, brushes his teeth,
trims his mustache,
showers his tiny saplings with water, and slips into his work clothes. He grabs a can of coffee from a vending machine, hops into a compact utility van packed with industrial cleaning gear, and leaves his Spartan working-class apartment. Hirayama drives toward the city center, cruising along Tokyo's elevated highways past the looming shadow of the Tokyo Skytree, the tallest tower on Earth. Along the way, he reaches for a cassette tape from a neat row slotted above the windshield, queuing up timeless 70s and 80s anthems from legendary acts like The Animals, Lou Reed, and the Velvet Underground. Right away, his exquisite taste in music catches you completely off guard. Then the real labor begins as he suits up with his arsenal of cleaning tools. Tiny handheld mirror helps him hunt down hidden grime in every dark corner, accompanied by a set of mops, crisp jumpsuit, and an unwavering wave of absolute professionalism. Hirayama acts as a quiet, stoic anchor beside his young, loud and restless co-workers who obsess over everything except the job itself. Takashi and the crew bounce from one public restroom to the next, dragging out the long grinding week. During his lunch break, Hirayama eats in the park, tilting his face up to feel the caress of sunlight filtering through the canopy or the gentle breeze swaying the branches. He gazes at his favorite tree, silently greeting both familiar and fresh faces. When the mood strikes, he pulls out his old film camera, snapping black and white photos of the trees from the exact same outdoor spot. After work, Hirayama heads home, then pedals his bicycle to the public bathhouse,
soaking up the quiet end of the day.
From there, he stops by his favorite local bar for a drink before returning home to read. You can safely guess his apartment holds nothing of high value, except for his books. Works by Patricia Highsmith, William Faulkner, and paperback classics borrowed from the library immediately force you to marvel once more at his refined artistic tastes. He has dreams too, mostly about trees, occasionally featuring people from his waking life, all uniquely rendered through black and white imagery.
Then he wakes up as the early morning light begins to tease the window panes and the neighbor's sweeping broom creeps into the frame.
Just like that, a brand new day restarts the loop. Hirayama does everything without rushing or panicking. Every task gets finished cleanly, neatly and precisely. He spares his words entirely, as if funneling all his energy away from talking and into pure observation and enjoyment. When he actually needs to speak, he chooses his words with absolute accuracy and propriety, treating language like a precious asset to be carefully guarded and saved. Perhaps when we grow more mindful of wasting the gifts we are given, our eyes to see but not observe, our ears to hear but not absorb, our lips to speak empty words instead of kind ones, our hands to touch but not feel, or our tongues to taste without truly savoring the flavor of our food, we end up drifting through life,
feeling nothing at all. Hirayama never tries to romanticize life like those who are slowly losing faith in it.
Above all else,
he simply does what he must do with utter excellence.
That is simply living. Every single day feels identical, yet every single day is entirely different. Hirayama uncovers beauty in a life built on simple yet joyful repetitions, discovering novelty within the subtle interactions life hands him.
The freshness he seeks sometimes comes down to nothing more than a different cassette tape he chooses, a fresh book he reads before falling asleep,
or moments on the job, crossing paths with his young coworker and the girl he likes, exchanging a nod with a young woman during lunch break, helping a lost boy find his mother, receiving a surprise visit from his niece, and reaching the emotional peak in a deeply moving conversation with his estranged sister.
Hirayama forces us to ask a difficult question.
Have you ever grown sick of living the exact same day on an endless loop? Out there, the world worships conquerors who climb Everest, pull in millions by 26, backpack the globe by 30, and retire in luxury at 31. They tell us that this kind of existence is the only one worth having, that we must live differently, bolder, faster, harder, because the second you pause, you get left behind and cast into the abyss, turning into a total nobody forever. Do we really have to become someone we are not? Is there any room left in this world for people who are simply doing their absolute best just to survive? Hirayama steps into these aesthetic,
grounded frames to whisper a different truth.
Our lives, no matter how ordinary they seem,
hold infinite layers to explore,
discover and experience through the unique differences that make every human being who they are. Strip away all the endless complaining until only the bare minimum remains, and you might finally see its true beauty. You start to notice the simple joy of waking up and heading to work.
Only then do you learn to live so that every single day feels distinct,
pouring your time into changing and growing better. After all, nobody needs a final 2 minutes on Earth to do the things they failed to do, or say across decades of breathing. Throughout all those years, why can't we live the way Hirayama lives?
Living deeply,
living fully, and leaving zero room for regret. Hirayama extracts pure joy from the smallest details. Not the kind of joy people chase a lifetime to find in wealth and status, but an inner radiance. A truly meaningful, poetic life begins the moment you stop thrashing, fighting and rebelling against the natural current and rhythm of existence. You simply live true to the essence of who you are. Perhaps that explains why Hirayama's seemingly dull, isolated, and almost ascetic lifestyle shocks us into realizing just how demanding and exhausting true discipline can be. Grounded in fierce self-control, predestined philosophies, and mindfulness, he reaches a state of breathtaking spiritual harmony. Can someone even pull this off while they are still young? As Wenders puts it, if you truly live in the present, your daily habits transform into something brand new, turning into the most
fascinating thing in the world.
Early in the film, when Hirayama crosses paths with a lost boy, he gently takes the child by the hand and guides him outside, offering casual words to soothe his panic and tears. The boy's mother rushes up and, without offering a single word of thanks, aggressively yanks her child away, ripping his hand right out of Hirayama's grip. While no explicitly offensive remarks are made, the gesture carries that unmistakable sting of class-based prejudice, the silent sneer directed at someone branded as a low-tier manual laborer. Yet, Hirayama doesn't let it touch him for a second. He cheerfully waves goodbye to the child and smiles with quiet reassurance now that the family is reunited. Director Wim Wenders leaves no room for petty judgments or right and wrong debates.
Everything steps aside for Hirayama's rock-solid self-awareness.
He knows he is a dignified honor man who pours his heart into his labor, his music, his books, and his quiet existence.
He doesn't need exhausting meltdowns to push past societal stigma.
Hirayama knows exactly who he is, and that inner strength wields enough power to completely deflect any poison tied to his profession. Wenders once shared that he cares deeply about how people view the world, how their emotions and eyes link back to their hearts or guts, and wherever else a sense of goodness and a life worth living resides.
It is breathtaking how every single person holds a unique perspective,
turning each of us into our own universe.
That exact philosophy weaves itself openly into the core of the film,
making Hirayama's quiet magnetism the true driving force of the narrative. Yet nobody can entirely dodge the sharp hook of suffering that clings to every human existence. Without pain to cast a shadow, joy would fade into nothing more than a haunting ghost lingering in the mysterious dreams of mankind. Just when Hirayama seems locked into an endless loop of small, harmless joys, his quiet rhythm fractures with
the arrival of his niece Nico.
She bursts into his orbit with wide-eyed curiosity, eager to dive headfirst into his daily routines. She tags along to his job, reads his books, and shares intimate conversations that slowly drag the dark, toxic reality of her own life out into the open. That unexpected reunion naturally paves the way for the film's ultimate emotional collision, Hirayama coming face to face with his sister. When his sister arrives to take Nico home, a single glance exposes the massive chasm in their social standing. She steps out of a luxury car
with a personal driver,
draped in high-end fashion, standing in stark contrast to Hirayama in his simple, slightly worn work clothes, within the exact same frame.
Wenders crafts the scene with brilliant subtlety.
Letting the tension of class disparity snap into sharp focus, it violently pulls us back to harsh reality just an hour after the film felt like pure poetry. Their brief conversation unfolds mostly through awkward silences and heavy tension, exposing heavy cracks in Hirayama's hidden past. It becomes clear that he and his family suffered deep ideological fractures, and this minimalist, ascetic lifestyle serves as an ongoing penance to soothe old traumas. True peace and unbreakable gratitude
never come easy. Beneath the way Hirayama plays and moves through life lies a deeper,
urgent mission, patching up wounds that still bleed the second someone touches them. When caution and calm fail to hold back the tide of old grief, those surreal, black and white dreams, dripping with artistic detachment, yet heavy with shadow, become the only way Hirayama can restore order to a chaotic world and a fractured mind. Unlike characters trapped in the grand cinematic universes of Wim Wenders' past works, Hirayama does not search for anything. Wenders notes that all his films ultimately tackle the question of how to live, and
Perfect Days delivers a precise answer.
He believes many will watch it and yearn for a simpler lifestyle, stripping away the excess of what we own and consume. After all, humanity's greatest tragedy is the relentless ache of yearning itself. That hunger unlocks the most breathtaking wonders, yet quietly murders others in the process. When life continuously shoves Hirayama into turbulence, it begins with Takashi, his co-worker, abruptly quitting without a word. Hirayama suddenly has to pull double duty, meaning his labor swallows the precious hours reserved for his daily rituals. First, the music dies on his morning drives. The lingering melodies from his cassette tapes and those literary echoes were never just about romanticizing a glorious past. They served as a lifeline, helping us grasp his peaceful solitude amid Tokyo's frantic pulse. But now that lifeline vanishes, next he catches the woman he holds dear with her ex-husband, sparking a sharp, raw pain so deep that the man breaks his own code, buying 3 cans of beer and a pack of cigarettes, things you would never expect to catch Hirayama doing. Later, he crosses paths with that very same ex-husband down by the river. Tomoyama reveals that he has terminal cancer. After 7 years apart, he decided to visit his ex-wife one last time to say goodbye. Recognizing Hirayama's quiet affection for Mama, the ex-husband subtly entrusts her to his care and thoughtfully asks, do overlapping shadows get darker? Hirayama insists they must, otherwise life would be meaningless. To prove it, playfully starts a game of shadow tag. This beautiful sequence carries profound meaning. The overlapping shadows symbolize human connection. Sharing our pain gives existence its weight. Instead of offering empty pity, Hirayama gives a dying man a moment of pure childlike joy.
It perfectly captures the film's core message.
Embracing the present and finding beauty even in life's darkest moments. It starts in peace and ends in peace. The world is built of countless worlds, some linked tightly, others drifting apart. Yet the familiar yet freshly unveiled world Wenders crafts in perfect days mirrors the exact reality every single person experiences through fleeting fragments of everyday life. In the end, we realize that life holds no grand, divine magic.
It simply is what it is.
Nothing more, nothing less. Our only task is to unearth beauty within the ordinary, so that anyone can stumble upon peace, trembling before the quiet, simple grace of everyday moments.